Strings. That's the answer to the question that I asked at the end of the last video. I thought I'd release the tension nice and early. Strings are what you can use to derive the Pythagorean ratios of music theory. So let's do that. Before we start, another quick check. When I mentioned earlier that in order for you to hear a sound as a musical note, it needs to have a regular frequency, it needs to vibrate at a regular sort of pace. I should also probably have mentioned that a low frequency, a slow vibration, is a low note. It's the same thing, a bass frequency. And a high note is a high frequency, a fast vibration cues. Now, let me show you what I mean. This is a note about 131 hertz. It's a C3. And this is a note of higher than that, 370 hertz roughly. It's an F sharp 4. Right, you could hear which one of those was lower and which one was higher. The lower one was lower frequency, the higher one was higher frequency. That's pretty basic. Okay, we want to look at a string, I think, as well as listen to it. But there's a bit of a problem with that. The range of human hearing, as I mentioned last time, goes from about 20 hertz, 20 cycles a second, up to about 20,000 hertz. 20 hertz is a very low bass frequency. It's a bit too low for most laptop, mobile and tablet sort of speakers to do anyway, so I'd have to go a bit higher than that. And that would, of course, become too fast for you to see it in detail and much too fast for 24 frames a second video to capture it. So we have to watch a string in slow motion. I haven't got a slow motion video camera. They cost a lot of money. So I've knocked up a version of a string, a virtual string, inside a bit of software, and we're going to pluck that instead. What can you do to change the tuning, the frequency of your string? Well, the first thing you can do is you can make it tighter or looser. You can change the tension. Probably needs to be a bit tight to start with in order to vibrate properly. So here's our virtual string. Here we're tightening it. You can probably see it's already sort of vibrating at its own natural frequency. Increase the tension. It gets a bit faster. To make that obvious, let's pluck the string. And then let's release the tension, and it gets slower. Now, I am sad enough that I've sat there and counted the frames to work out how much faster and slower it gets. So if we could scale the pitch up of the sound that this virtual string might be making, at least in terms of its fundamental frequency, then it would sound something like this. Okay, that's great. That's how you tune stuff. That's how you tune your ancient Greek lyre or kithara. And that's great if you are happy to listen to other people's lyres and kitharas and listen to musical sounds and then just twiddle around with the tuning pegs until it sounds the way you want it to sound. But it does mean that any system of tuning relies on you having heard a version of that system of tuning in order for you to replicate it. That's not what we're after. We want something with some rules. So is there another way of changing the pitch of your string? Because changing the tension, it's very difficult to know exactly how much more or less tension you're putting on it, and it's very hard to control it in real time as well. How else do people change the pitch of strings? Let's have a look at a slightly more modern instrument. Didn't need to look maybe quite as much more modern as that, but got bored in the software. Right, so this is an instrument, likewise has a natural vibrating frequency if we pluck the string. This time I'm going to stop the string halfway down its length with a virtual fret, such as you might get on a virtual guitar, and a virtual finger is going to come and slightly pinch the string against that fret just to stop the string, but trying not to muck around with the tension too much. So you can see that it goes faster again, which is probably what you would have expected. But what's important to us is that it goes an exact amount faster. If the string is exactly half the length, assuming that the string is working nicely according to physics, then the note will be exactly twice the frequency. Again, so far, so much an interesting, potentially slightly interesting bit of maths and physics about wavelength and frequency. That's lovely. But what's it got to do with music? Well, this is what that interval sounds like. That interval is called an octave. It is the most fundamental musical relationship in terms of notes that you're going to get in Western music. So fundamental that if we were to play a note on a piano, let's say we'll take this low C. If we want to look for the octave, we want to look for the note that's twice the frequency exactly, we are going to look at another note that is also called C. We've gone through past all the other D, E, F, G, A, B. We've gone back to C. These two notes are called the same name. One C is a low C and that C is a high C, but they're both called a C. Now, I'm sure you can all hear that one of those notes is lower than the other. So what does it mean for something to be the same note but higher, or the same note but lower? Oh, and by the way, the next C, that's twice that other C as well. So there's C at twice the frequency, there's C at 4 times the frequency. So what are we talking about when we say that these notes are the same? Clearly they're all different notes, lower and higher ones. Well, here's what I mean by that. Okay, I need to use a tune that everyone's familiar with here, and very luckily for me, a tune that I've always liked to use to explain things in music theory is Happy Birthday. And it's come out of copyright. It was in copyright for most of my life, so every time I tried to use it to explain something, I was technically breaking some kind of law. Now I'm not breaking the law anymore by playing Happy Birthday to you. So here's Happy Birthday. Actually, you know how it goes. I don't need to play the whole thing. The point about Happy Birthday is that I happen to play it starting on that low C on the piano. That's in a key. It could be in any key. I can start that piece of music anywhere, and as long as I move all the notes the same amount, that's called transposition, I'll still get Happy Birthday. Here's Happy Birthday starting on the very next note up, the C sharp, the black note there. It's fine, isn't it? It's Happy Birthday. Here it is started on the F, a bit higher up. And on the F sharp, it's fine. And on the A sharp, B flat thing there, it's fine. And on the B, it's fine. And on the next C, it's also fine. They're all Happy Birthday, just lower and higher versions of Happy Birthday. So, what have these two C ones got in common that the other ones haven't? Well, it's all about what notes go with each other. If I play an accompaniment to Happy Birthday along with the melody, again, it's Happy Birthday, it's fine, everyone recognises it. But now if I move the melody and I don't move the accompaniment, I should imagine you can predict it doesn't sound particularly nice. It doesn't sound particularly nice on most notes. If I put it on the F, well, I don't know if you would agree, but that sounds not nice, but not quite as not nice as the other one. If I put it on the F sharp, oh, I think that's worse again. Put it on that A sharp B flat thing, still not good. Put it on the B, no, it's rubbish. Put it on the next C. Oh. Okay, so what we've got there is the right tune. It's Happy Birthday again. Everything is fine about it. It's completely right for the same key. Same backing, hasn't changed at all. And that's what we mean when we say that those two C's are the same note. If you play a C in your melody, then the next C will also do the same job in that melody. It'll just be a higher version of the same melody. It will go with all the same backings. It will harmonise in the same way with all the same other notes. If that C will work, that C will work, that C will work. And the only thing that's going to be different about them is in terms of where you hear the tone of the sound. The harmony is the same. That's what an octave is. So, good. We've got our first musical relationship. We're beginning on the path towards Pythagorean harmony. If you're interested, and I think when we're talking about intervals and harmonies and stuff, it's always good to have something to hang it on to get used to. It's worth noting that an octave jump is the first two notes of the melody to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So, for a quick blast of that. Yeah, not too much otherwise, because that is still in copyright. But that's a way of remembering it, perhaps, if you know the song. We've got an octave. And I know what you're thinking. You're intelligent people. You heard the word octave. And you're thinking octopus, octagon, octet, octaventral hebephone, right? Oct means 8. The octave is the 8th note. That means there's other notes in between the octaves. We can't just make an instrument out of octaves. We wouldn't be able to do very much with it musically. So where do we get the other notes? I will tell you in the next video. Hello. This is normally the point in the video where someone comes along and says, this video was made possible by, but frankly at the moment these videos are being made possible by the fact that I'm making them. And also by the fact that Blender's a bit of free software. And to be fair, by Byron Blay, who is one of my patrons, writing a bit of code for me so that I can do MIDI files. But also, these videos will be made impossible if I get evicted because I can't pay my rent. So, you know the drill. I'm a desperate man. This is a stick up. Put all the money in the Patreon account and nobody gets hurt. Bye.